Today I want to show you something you've probably never seen before, Mexican green rice. Okay, you've probably seen that before, but have you ever seen it layered with caramelized onions, crème fraîche, and cheese? Have you ever seen it baked in a bun form to make something that looks as amazing as it tastes? Have you ever seen something like this? Hello and welcome back to cooking, and welcome to part 3 of the epic rice trilogy. That was a lot of rice videos. The whole point of this trilogy has been to show you how you can learn a basic recipe and then add new layers of colors and flavors and textures to make something outstanding. And today's recipe is really outstanding. What I love about this recipe is that it showcases my favorite things about Mexican cuisine. Vibrant flavors and vibrant colors. It's something surprising and it's never boring. Speaking of never boring, I'm gonna serve this rice with some beans and some marinated grilled chicken with a Chipotle cream sauce that tastes amazing and is incredibly easy to make. Stick around till the end of the video to see how it's made. Now, color is something I think that often gets overlooked in many recipes, and it makes such a huge difference. Every time I made this recipe for friends or clients, people absolutely loved it. And they always ask me, how do you make rice green? Well, the answer is simply cook the rice 3 months ahead of time and wait. I'm just kidding. Let's jump into the kitchen. To make this recipe, you're gonna need some green ingredients to make green broth. I'm using a mixture of coriander, parsley, and spinach, but you can use whatever you like. This recipe also works great with some poblano chilies, but that's not always easy to find outside of Mexico and the US. Now, I chose this particular recipe because it uses ingredients that are easy to find and it still tastes amazing. So let's start with fresh coriander or cilantro. Now, stalks tend to be a bit thin and tender, so I use the whole thing. With parsley, on the other hand, I like to remove the thick stalks, but you don't have to clean every single leaf. I'll also be using frozen spinach. You can obviously use fresh spinach, but I find these frozen cubes to be really practical and they're always there when I need them. Then, to make the broth more interesting, I'm gonna add a garlic clove and some chili flakes, or if you prefer, a fresh chili. All of this will be blended with some chicken broth. For rice, I'm using basmati, but any white rice will work. However, parboiled rice will not work. Then, to layer the rice, I'm gonna use some Emmentaler cheese, but you can go with any cheese that melts well, some crème fraîche, and some caramelized white onions. Start by making the green broth. Now, I mentioned I like to remove the big stalks from the parsley, and I was curious how much it weighs without the stalks. I started with 60 grams of parsley, and once I removed the stalks, I was left with around 40 grams. So there you have it. Then just give your herbs a rough chop and add it to the blender. By the way, I also find that chopping garlic a little bit makes it easier for the blender to puree it. Finally, add some salt and chili flakes. Now, I know how salty my broth is, so I recommend not adding too much salt. You can always taste the broth once it's boiling. Add enough broth to cover everything and blend it at high speed for a good minute to a minute and a half. Then just pour your green broth with the rest of your broth. Look at that awesome green color. Now, set a pan on medium heat and add some olive oil. While the pan is heating, I'm gonna thinly slice some white onions because it saves a little time. But don't stress about it. You don't always have to be doing something quickly while something else is going on. Cooking should be enjoyable and relaxing. Once the oil is hot, add the rice and coat it well with oil. This helps cook the surface starch, but be careful not to burn the rice. A little browning is fine, but you don't want it to blacken. Then give your green broth a good stir and add it to the rice. Bring it to a boil while stirring to keep the rice from sticking. I do recommend tasting the broth at this point for seasoning. Mine needs a little more salt. Then put a lid on it and cook for 15 minutes on low heat. While the rice is cooking, preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius or these many degrees Fahrenheit. Now, set a large pan on medium heat and add some olive oil. Once the pan is hot, add the onions and season with salt. Now, this may seem like a lot of onions, but you'll see how much they shrink once they caramelize. Onions are mostly water, so to speed up their cooking, you can turn up the heat to high. Just be careful not to burn them. Once most of the water has evaporated, you're gonna get some light browning like you can see over here. Now, you can turn down the heat, put a lid on the onions, and let them caramelize, making sure you stir it now and then to stop them from burning. The rice is now done cooking, so I'm just gonna turn off the heat and let it rest for another 10 minutes, giving the onions a little more time to finish caramelizing. While the onions finish cooking, I'm gonna shred some cheese and then clean everything up. Minimizing chaos is a great way to make cooking more enjoyable, so I suggest taking a few minutes every now and then just to clean everything up. So it's been about 15 minutes and the onions are looking perfect. You see some caramelization, but no blackened onions, which taste bitter. I'm gonna put these aside on the plate and get everything ready to assemble the rice cake. Start by giving your rice a good mix to get everything evenly colored. The rice might still have a bit of a bite, and that's okay. It will still finish cooking in the oven. I'm gonna use a bundt cake to assemble the rice, but you can use any cake form you like. Just make sure you coat it generously with butter to keep the rice from sticking. Now let's start some layering. The first layer should always be rice. If you add cheese or onions thinking it will look better, these will burn and stick and it won't come out of the mold easily. Trust me, I've tried. Also make sure you're pushing down on the rice while layering it, since this will make it easier for it to come out in the end. Then add some onions, about a tablespoon of creme fraiche, and sprinkle some cheese. Don't add too much cheese to these first layers, since you don't want the cheese to stick so high up. Now top with rice and repeat, making sure you press down with a spoon on every layer to help it keep its shape. I'm gonna do a total of 4 layers, but you can do whatever you like. Then just cover it with some foil and into the oven it goes for 30 minutes. While the rice is baking, let's make that grilled chicken with chipotle cream. This recipe uses one of my favorite kitchen cheats, using pureed chipotle. To make it, I just empty a can of chipotle into a jar, I add a little bit of water, maybe a little vinegar and salt, and blend it. This will keep in the fridge for ages, it's never gone bad because I always finish it, and I use it in so many recipes like chipotle mayonnaise, chipotle hollandaise, coming soon, and this awesome chicken. I'm gonna make a quick marinade for the chicken using 3 teaspoons of that awesome chipotle puree, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, the juice of 1 lemon, and a tablespoon of soy sauce. Mix everything together and pour it on the chicken, letting it marinate while the grill or a pan heats up. I'm also gonna heat up some canned beans, and to make it more interesting, I like to add a teaspoon of oregano or epazote if you have it, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and some chili flakes. For the chipotle cream sauce, add some olive oil to a small pan, crush 1 garlic clove, and fry it on low heat. This step is optional, so if you want to skip it, the sauce will still taste amazing. Then add 3 teaspoons of the chipotle puree, some water, or some chicken broth if you have any left over, and bring everything to a boil. Then just add 250 grams of creme fraiche and season it with salt. Finally, to make it smoother, just give it a quick blend. This tastes and looks amazing, and it takes less than 5 minutes to make. Honestly, I think using chipotle puree is illegal in cooking competitions. This is the doping of cooking. This grilled chicken is looking extremely tasty, and the rice is now ready to come out of the oven. Once it's ready, just take off the foil and use a spatula to make sure the edges are not stuck. Then flip it onto a plate. Now, I made this recipe with a really beaten up mold, and this happened. Well, that didn't work out. So make sure you have a mold that is in good shape and well buttered to save you this frustration. Now for the plating, which I suck at. Put a slice of the rice cake on the plate and spoon some of that chipotle sauce on the plate. Then place the chicken on top of the sauce because it looks too good to cover with sauce. Then add some beans, and if you're feeling artsy, try drizzling some creme fraiche on the rice. Then invite some friends over and enjoy the good times. I know this dish seems like a lot of work, but I love that it takes a side dish and turns it into the star of a meal. I really hope you try it, and I am genuinely curious, have you ever seen a dish like this before? As always, you can find the recipe in the description below, and if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, click here, or go to our website, back2.cooking. Actually, wait, I think it comes from the other side. Or go to our website, back2.cooking. Thanks so much for watching, catch you in the next one.